and I am back, and I am here with a swatch and review video for you guys featuring the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk Eyeshadow palette, which is one of her more recent releases. She has since released some more smaller eyeshadow palettes, which I'm actually very intrigued about. But I've been putting this to the test for the past few weeks. I've done a haul video and I've done some get ready with me videos featuring this palette. And I wanted to go ahead now and share my thoughts after using it for quite a while and let you know what I think. Now, as usual with my reviews, I like to start off with the swatches and then we'll actually jump into the price breakdown. We'll jump into the packaging and all that good stuff after you see the swatches. So let's go ahead and jump right into the swatches. So let's go ahead and take a look at the overall palette. Inside you have an overlay and then of course the mirror, and then in the bottom we have our eyeshadows. There are 18 eyeshadows in this palette with 4 different finishes. We have 8 matte shades, which are Desert Sand, Musk, Eden, Amber, Oud, Amethyst, Saffron, and Blazing. Then we have 6 pressed pearls, which are Blood Moon, Nefertiti, Royal, Cashmere, Angelic, Turkish Delight, followed by 3 duochrome topper eyeshadows, which are Celestial, Twilight, and Retrograde, and 1 single pure glitter eyeshadow in Cosmo. Now I'm going to apply these swatches on my arm over a very light layer of primer. This is the Too Faced Shadow Insurance, and I'm using my Sigma Eye Shading E55 brush for the swatches and cleaning off my brush in a clean washcloth between swatches. The first shade up is Desert Sand. This is a matte, warm toned, peachy beige shade. It has a lot of warmth to it, so there's a lot of caramel, yellow, and peach undertone to it. This eyeshadow actually layers up pretty nicely, and it has that peachy undertone that makes it great for darker skin tone, and it has a smooth texture. Next we have the shade Musk. This one is a medium toned neutral brown. It has some purple undertones to it, and it has a little bit of gray as well. It would work well to deepen up the crease, but it does take some building up. It's not fully opaque in one swipe. Then we have the shade Eden. This is a medium toned peach. It's a matte finish. This is a creamy eyeshadow. It does take some layering as well, but it's such a beautiful color once you get it to full opacity. Then we have the shade Amber. This is another one of the matte shades. It's a beautiful, rich brick orange shade. It leans a little bit brown, so it's like an orangey brown. It's a warm shade and it really builds up nicely, but again, you do need to layer this color, but it has a smooth payoff. It isn't patchy at all. Followed by one of the pressed pearl shades. This is Blood Moon. This is a beautiful shimmery orange bronze shade. It's like a coppery bronze, really smooth, and it applies pretty evenly in one swipe. Then we have the shade Oud. This is a dark red brown shade. Again, one of those shades that builds up nicely and you can use it to deepen up the crease. Next up is one of the duochrome shades. This is Celestial. It is a very light yellow gold shade with pinky duochrome and peachy reflex to it. I don't like the texture of this. It's a little chunkier when you use it dry, so I do recommend using a damp brush with this shade. Then we have one of the pressed pearls. This is Nefertiti. This is a pale champagne gold shade, and it also has a little bit of micro fine gold glitter to it. Again, not my favorite texture. It does come off a little bit chunky, so I would apply that with a damp brush. Another one of the duochrome shades is Twilight. This one is a very sheer base. It's a duochrome between like a light purple base, like a lavender base, and then it has more of a red toned purple to it. It also leans a little bit sky blue. This one, again, sheer, chunky. You do want to layer this or use it with a damp brush. Another one of the mattes is Amethyst. This is the pop of color in the palette. It's a red tone medium purple. I don't like this shade. It's very sheer and it doesn't build up well. Then we have Royal next to this. This is a purple tone cranberry shade. This one is beautiful and it does layer up pretty nicely. And I really love the combination of pink and purple in this shade. Then we have another one of the duochromes. This is Retrograde. Again, another sheer topper shade. It has a deeper reddened purple base to it, and it reflects a little bit of aqua teal. It's a very sheer shade. Again, it's meant for a topper. Next up is Cashmere. This is one of the pressed pearls. This is one of the smoother shimmer shades in the palettes. It's really opaque. It glides on beautifully onto the skin without having to do much. Next we have Angelic. This is another one of the pressed pearls. This one is, again, a peachy pink with a yellow shift. Then we have Cosmo, which is the pure glitter. This is just pure glitter. There's not much to it. It has pink, purple, yellow gold, orange, and like a deeper bronze to it. It's a pretty shade as well. Turkish Delight is another one of the pressed pearls. It's a cranberry shimmery shade that builds up beautifully. Now we have another matte. This is Saffron. This is a deep, almost like a blood red shade. It is a little drier to the touch because it is a red, so be careful with that. You do have to build it up so it doesn't get too patchy. And then we'll finish up with Blazing, which is a orange matte shade. Doesn't really pick up very nicely, but it's one of those warm shades. So here you have all 18 shades in the palette with all the mattes, all the duochromes, all the pressed pigments. These, I mean, the mattes perform and apply pretty decently. I really don't love the texture of the duochrome shades. I really think you need to apply them with a damp brush for them to really pick up. The shimmer shades are pretty decent for the most part, but nothing too outstanding. And that one purple shade, Amethyst, just throws the whole palette off because it's that pop of color that you expect to be intense, but it's not really the best shade in the palette. Here we have a look at the palette after I'm done swatching, so this can give you an idea of the amount of kickback you can get from these eyeshadows. They're not really powdery or loose. I did pick up quite a lot of product on my brush, so this is what you can expect, and the mattes give more kickback than the shimmers. Alright guys, so now that you have seen the swatches and you have an idea of how these eyeshadows apply to the skin, you've probably checked out my Get Ready With Me videos, I'm thinking, or maybe even my haul video and saw my initial thoughts of this product as I used it. And now we can go ahead and jump into the actual review. So the first thing that I like to talk about as usual is the price. This palette retails for $65. There are 18 shades in the palette and the net weight of the palette is 25.2 grams or 0.89 ounces. It's stated right here on the box. That equates to roughly 0.049 ounces per eyeshadow, which is just under the 0.05 size of a regular small eyeshadow on the market. So that to me is a pretty good amount. You're talking about single eyeshadows. There are 18 of them for the price of $65. That equates to roughly $3.61 per eyeshadow in this palette, which is not a bad price point if you compare it against like other brands on the market. So like Urban Decay, Too Faced, Stila, Smashbox, they're roughly around that price point per eyeshadow or per shade in their palettes. Even so, that $65 price point still throws me off. It's $65 for an eyeshadow palette, and I have been known to spend a lot of money on makeup, but $65 is just a little bit more than I like to spend on an eyeshadow palette. When I buy an eyeshadow palette, I don't care how many eyeshadows I get in the palette. Yes, I know the more eyeshadows you get, it's a better deal, but I'm not comfortable with the over $50 price point. Typically, I bank on not liking about 20 to 30% of an eyeshadow palette. They're just not going to be shades that I'm interested in or that I'll get full use out of. That's how I look at it when I buy an eyeshadow palette. I am buying it to get like a better deal, but I know not all the shades are gonna appeal to me because it's not curated by me. So obviously, some of the shades may not be my favorite. So I'm thinking about 3 to 5 of these shades I'm not gonna like. So when I put that in my mind and I think $65, I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. So to me, it depends on how comfortable you are with spending $65 on an eyeshadow palette and how many of these shades you're thoroughly in love with, and you know you're going to get your money's worth because you're going to hit pan on a lot of these shades. As far as the packaging goes, this is kind of an upgrade from the previous packaging. People complained about it, that it was a little bit cheap looking. It was a plain cardboard with a clear, like a transparent lid so you could see the shades, which I actually like. I find it really convenient when I can see the shades in a palette, but people were not in love with that. So she went with a full cardboard. It's a nice hefty cardboard. It doesn't feel cheap at all. And she has her signature eyes on the palette. She has her logo. All right, this is completely subjective, all right? I don't like the theme of her packaging one bit. Her face, her eyes on everything, it's a little cringy for me personally because I don't want to put this in my collection where I have her eyes like staring at me. It's a little creepy. I will admit. Imagine having like multiples of this, like her eyeshadow palette with her highlighter palette, with her eyelashes. It gets to be a lot. So it's not my thing, but if you're into this, this is cute. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful artwork. I think the little glowy eyeshadow, it's really beautiful. It's just not my, I'm not vibing with it. On the back, it's plain back cardboard. It has some information on the back about the palette. It has the open jar symbol, which says it has 12 months of usage life, which is always good. And then it has her social media stuff. Again, a little bit tacky for me. Like, I don't need your hashtag Huda Beauty on my packaging. I don't need to advertise for you. She has her YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I get it. She's a social media personality. She's an influencer, but it's just not on a $65 palette. That's just how I feel, right? And then you open up the palette. It's magnetized, so it has a magnetic flap. And the lid has a beautiful mirror. It's a nice size mirror. It's not the full length of the packaging, but it's still a beautiful size. It's great to do your makeup. It's a really nice quality mirror. And she has, again, her Huda Beauty logo. It flops over, so you would have to hold it in place to apply your eyeshadow or your makeup. But I think it's a really good mirror for on the go. And then, of course, she has the insert that protects the eyeshadows. And again, it has her eyes. I'm not into this, but it's her aesthetic. It's her brand. It's her face. Like, this is her signature. This is what she's known for. So you kind of expect this kind of face on your products. I know some people like this, so I'm not going to complain about it anymore, but it's a nice solid plastic overlay to help protect your eyeshadows from your mirror. So I do keep that in my palettes, especially if I have such a nice mirror. You never know when I want to use that mirror, even though I never use mirrors in palettes, but I know it comes in handy. And then the eyeshadows are laid out in 3 rows of 6, and I feel like it's a coordinated layout of shades. On the top you have the more warm tone shades, in the middle you have the purpley tones, on the bottom you have more berry shades. So I do think the layout of the eyeshadows is really pleasing to the eye, and then you have the names printed under each eyeshadow in like a golden simple font, and I think that's a nice touch. So overall, do like the packaging. I just don't think at $65 I need a cardboard packaging with her face on it. Oh, I said I was gonna stop that, right? As far as purchasing this palette, you can find it online at Sephora.com for those of us in the US. And you can also find it on the Huda Beauty website where she features all her products. In store, you can find it at select Sephora stores. They tend to have like end displays where they have some really popular products, and the Huda Beauty tends to be a part of that display. It won't be in every single Sephora store, but you can find it in your Sephora store where they have those more popular products. If you are buying this online, then of course you need to factor in the shipping costs, especially if you are international. So bear that in mind, that in addition to the $65, you are gonna run into shipping charges, and it might take a little while to get to your door. But I purchased this online at Sephora, and I am VIB Rouge, so it got to me within 2 days. Now that we've gotten that all out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the product and the performance. On the back of the actual box, it says, immerse yourself in the soft warmth of the desert. Rays of sunset light washing the sky and dunes with rich hues of changing plums, corals, ochres, and golds. 18 mesmerizing shades encapsulated in 4 ready-to-layer textures. So there are 8 buttery mattes blending with your skin for color that does not move. 6 sublime pressed pearls casting a shimmery veil over your eyes. 3 duochrome toppers revealing their magic under the light. And 1 daring glitter for audacious looks celebrating your inner #desert queen. Can we not with a hashtag? I'm just saying. Now the main ingredient in these eyeshadows is mica, so it's going to give you that shiny finish. It has dimethicone, some jojoba oil, so it's going to give you that slip that you need. And nothing in this palette really stands out to me as unusual when it comes to eyeshadow. It also says it is made in Italy, so that's a good sign that she probably is using a great manufacturer in Italy. There's nothing on the palette or in the information that indicates that this palette is cruelty-free or vegan, if that is something that you look out for. It does say that it is formulated without parabens and sulfates, which is something that's critical for me because parabens tend to irritate my eyes. And just from reading on the Sephora website, it says that Huda was inspired by the exotic landscape of the Arabian desert around her, and of course the sunset in that setting. And she did also incorporate some of the feedback from their initial palette. I do like when brands take feedback from their customers and make improvements and tweaks to either the formulation or the packaging, as the case may be. In this case, I know she did improve on the packaging. The thing about that is too that if you bought the initial palette, which is being discontinued now, this is the replacement, it kind of makes you feel a little bit gypped, right? Like you got a subpar version of the packaging. But, you know, that's something that goes with the growth of a brand. Things are going to improve and change. And if you're here for the growth of a brand and you like seeing improvements, then here's one that actually took some critique and went ahead and improved her palette. Now, like I mentioned, there are 8 mattes in this palette. I like the selection of the matte shades. There are some transition colors that I think will work with all the tones in this palette, and then you have a couple of deepening accent shades. There are a couple of things that are missing from this palette that would make it more of an accessory palette for me rather than an all-in-one palette that I can use for an entire look. Mind you, you can get a full look from this palette, you just have to tweak it a little bit. Like, there are no light highlight shades, so if you're lighter skin tone, you're not going to find a highlight shade in this palette. For me, I can use Desert Sand as a highlight, but even on my darker skin tone, I find it's still a little bit too deep to give me that lift that I would expect from a highlighting product. But it doesn't bother me too much because I have my go-to highlights, I have my go-to transition shades, but I just need to pull them out to work with this palette. I do think the medium shades are nice shades to build up dimension, but I feel like she's also missing a really dark shade. The darkest shade here is Oud, which is a dark brown, but it's not deep enough or rich enough for me to give me a really dark outer V, or if I really wanted to smoke out a look, that is just not dark enough. It looks dark in the pan, but once you start applying it, it kind of lightens up as you blend it. So overall, I think you still need to pull a couple of shades from other palettes or from your collection to supplement this overall palette. I will say I don't feel like the matte shades are the most impressive I've ever dealt with. They are not really creamy and buttery as it says here on the information. It says it's buttery matte. A couple of them are a little bit drier to the touch. Like Desert Sand and Eden are smooth, creamy mattes, but then Musk, Amber, Saffron is a little bit dry, but I expect that from that red shade. Amethyst is a little bit dry and grainy and gritty as well, so I don't think overall I would describe these as buttery. And they aren't overly pigmented, so you do have to build them up, which I don't mind because I actually prefer my shades to allow me to build up pigmentation rather than just being bam in your face pigmentation and then I have trouble blending them out. So I do like that these are buildable mattes and they do build nicely on themselves without becoming too muddy or patchy. So I do like that in the formulation. I just feel like the texture is a little bit off. It feels a little bit drier than I would like. As far as our shimmer shades, there are 6 of them in this palette. These shades are beautiful. They're smooth, but I don't feel like they give me a consistent payoff overall. The Blood Moon shade is really intense, really beautiful. Even the Turkish Delight shade, really great pigmentation, but then angelic and cashmere are a little bit lighter, and I have a deeper skin tone, so that could be because of my skin tone. And then we move on to the 3 duochrome toppers, which are Twilight, Retrograde, and Celestial, which a lot of people seem to be really impressed by. I don't like these as much as other people do. I find them to be, I mean, they're toppers. What did I expect? They're supposed to be sheer toppers. You layer them on top of other colors. But I find like Retrograde and Twilight end up looking kind of similar, with Retrograde being like a toned down version of Twilight. They have this like gritty texture to them. Again, what did I expect from a topper? But I just don't like those 2 shades. The blue aqua reflect in it, it's just not enough for me to love these shades. And they do fade over time as you apply them to your lids. They do kind of fade off throughout the day as you wear them, unless you wear like a glitter glue or something to really hold them in place. I just don't like those. Celestial is probably the best one for me, but even with that, once you layer it on top of something else, it's like the interest goes away. It's not really a standout shade, which is fine, but those are 3 shades that I don't like right out the gate. And then we move on to the pressed glitter shade Cosmo, which a lot of people seem to have an issue with. I think this is a beautiful glitter, okay? It's a really beautiful glitter. If I could just get that as a glitter, I'd be happy. And I think it was innovative of her to include a pressed glitter in her palette. When have you ever seen that? I've not really seen that done in a palette like this, where she has all these different finishes and then she tosses in a pressed glitter. So kudos to her for doing something a little bit different. I do understand people might not like that. It is a pressed glitter. It's a glitter. It's going to be messy. Unless you use a glitter glue, then you're not going to really like it. But if you use glitter glue, it's a really beautiful multicolored glitter that I actually like. But overall, remember when I said that I'm not going to like about 3 to 6 shades in this palette just based on what I know from palettes? There are about 6 shades in this palette that I don't find impressive enough to be worth $65 for the overall palette. For instance, I love Cashmere. I think that shade is beautiful. If I could get that in a single, I would jump all over it. But I feel like Cashmere, Nefertiti, and Celestial are kind of the same shade for me on my eyelids. I mean, there's a little bit of color nuance difference, but it's not intense enough or different enough to be that noticeable. Do you get what I mean? Amethyst, which is the purple, which is the pop of color that you would think would be like, oh God, that should be really great. That's like, that is a flop. It doesn't really build well. It fades away. It's almost like you have to mix it with other shades and it's just going to give you a little hint of purple, but nothing crazy. So already those shades are just, they're done for me. Love Blood Moon, love Royal, love Turkish Delight. And then Saffron and Blazing I think are really beautiful mattes. Amber is also a beautiful matte. Eden and Desert Sand, love those shades. But then, ooh, there's like, it's a dark brown that's not really that great. And then Musk is, again, another shade that I could care less about. And like I said, with the duochrome toppers, I'm like not really impressed by them. So overall, I am not in love with this palette. For $65, I am just not impressed enough. If it was a $45 palette, I would completely embrace it. But for $65, I expected to love it a little bit more. I expected it to be more than just an accessory palette that I would pull out to use 1 or 2 shades from. I expected it to be more all around, and I expected to love more shades than the ones that I love. And I just don't feel like the formulation of these are significantly better than cheaper alternatives. So I would give this palette about a C rating. It's very average, and for the price, I don't need average. I need it to be outstanding. I need it to be great. So there you go. Those are my overall thoughts of the palette, and I know that there are a lot of people that love this palette, and if you love this palette, great. I just don't love it, and if you do love it, then the $65 may be worth it for you. For me, it just doesn't cut it. And let me know, do you love it? Are you really impressed by these eyeshadows at that price point? Really think about it. At that price point, are you thoroughly in love with that palette? If you tried it and you don't like it either, then let me know what you think. I do disagree though, and I will say this right now with the, oh, it's so powdery and it goes everywhere, oh my God, and the freak out about the eye. No, they do not kick up like an exorbitant amount of product. They do apply nicely and they do blend nicely. It's just that it's not enough for me. So let me know what you guys think. I will leave some details down in the description box. Yes, there is a tutorial for this look, so stay tuned for that. I'll also leave links to my Instagram and Twitter page where you should definitely be following me along. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, favorites, and share with your friends. And if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And also at the end of this video, there will be some recommendations in case you wanted to check out some other videos from me. So until my next video, which will be very soon, I'll talk to you. Bye, guys.